Hey there Scapers, my name is Zenevelius and welcome to my Ultimate Runescape 3 Helwyr boss guide, aka the Seren boss from God Wars Dungeon 2. Now these ultimate guides are meant to be very comprehensive. That is the unique aspect about them. They're meant to be very comprehensive in that they cover everything, which is why I've got a menu here for you to navigate to the relevant section if you already know some bits and you want to get to other bits. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the guide, and it's my personal favorite boss in case you're wondering, which is why I made a guide of it, and it was a perfect opportunity for me to make a guide, an ultimate guide, because this is brand new content, and it's been quite fun so far, so hopefully you have fun with it as well. So what exactly is Helwyr, guys? Well, I believe he's actually an elf. You'll find this out at the start of the fight when an elf transforms into this creature, and he, I think, is the leader of the Queer clan or something, the 9th elven clan, not in Prifddinas. But anyway, that's for lorehounds to find out. He's a crossover between a bear and a wolf as far as I'm concerned, and in fact he is a magical creature. His items, the items that he drops, are used to make magic armour, tier 80 and tier 85 magic armour, but he attacks with melee only. His max hit is around 3500, but he can bleed up to 250 typeless damage. I'm not sure about his stats, but I think it's 85 defense and attack. He doesn't have a weakness as usual, and he's got the same life points as every other God Wars 2 boss. Now, before you go into this boss, there's a few things you should know, not about the boss, but about how you can improve your drop from the boss, and that is a reputation system. Those of you that have done raids will know this very well. You gain reputation using various different methods, but I'll cover that at the end of the video. But for now, all you need to know is that when you get seals from killing other God Wars 2 bosses, if you want reputation for this boss, hand in the seals that you got from killing the other bosses to the guy in the center of the Heart of Gielinor, the faction representative of Seren, and you will get some reputation. Also, if you complete the Tales of the God Wars, you will get reputation as well, 500 I believe, and there are various other ways which I'll come to later. But basically, yeah, it's good to get reputation. If you get the max amount, you can double your drops, so you can make a lot more money basically. The only requirement for this boss is 80 magic. You definitely need that, otherwise you can't enter the boss fight, and the rest I recommend. So if you are either a low level or you're going in a big team, you don't need massive stats. You can do with tier 70 armor and tier 80 weapons. I do recommend tier 80 weapons at least though, otherwise it kind of gets a bit difficult. And a war tortoise helps protect from melee is a must as well at this boss, unless there's one person tanking the whole fight and you're not going to be anywhere near it. Otherwise, if you're soloing, I recommend maxed combat stats in the style you're going to be using, and you can use any style, but I'll get to the setups later on. And I also recommend overloads and turmoil and pack yak as well. Pack yak is actually quite important if you want to last here for more than a few kills at a time, at least when you start off and you have no clue how to do the boss and you have no experience. You do definitely need that pack yak if you want to camp solo. How do you actually get to God Wars Dungeon 2? Well, the easiest way, if you have access to the max guild, is to use the max portal basically and set it to Helwyr. Easy as that. The second way is if you've done the mini quest Tales of the God Wars, which also gives you 500 reputation, so I recommend that you do it. You can use the heart teleport and it will teleport you straight into the dungeon. And the last way is if you have a Desert Amulet 2 or better, you can just teleport to Nada and then run southwest as... Oh no, someone just got an Araxite pit. Are you kidding me? For God's sake. Grats though. I think it might be my mate. Anyway, yeah, you just run southwest of the teleport spot and you're there. The heart is just here, past these stones, and there's the entrance right there. All you got to do is click on it. Okay, now if you don't have any of those, what you can do is you can run from the bandit camp teleport, which I believe is... Where is it? It's somewhere here. I don't remember where exactly. Yeah, it's there. It's here. And you can run from there, or you can just take the carpet from Shantae past to Polly, or to Nada, and then run from there. It's pretty simple to get there, but you should have the heart teleport. In fact, I recommend that you get that for that extra reputation and for the increased drop chance that you get with that extra reputation. Getting 40 KC, which is what you need to get in, is very simple in God Wars Dungeon 2. Just stand right here at the Seren encampment and you'll see a mob spawning. Now just tag the mob before they rush off. Tag them. Use AoE abilities like Corruption Shot, Corruption Blast, Hurricane, Cleave, Quake, that kind of thing. In fact, I recommend bringing ranged or mage. Even if you're meleeing the boss, bring ranged or mage for the KC, because it will make it so much more simple. You just got to tag the boss, and as long as it dies, you'll get the KC for it. And in God Wars Dungeon 2, you also have a multiplier, which means as you get KC, you can get a multiplier that will improve the amount of KC you get per one monster killed. So bring a group, do this together, and you'll get it in no time. Also, there are two strongholds for Seren, which you can just camp and wait for the mobs to come there. These are the two strongholds. If you wait here, you can just wait for them to come, use AoE abilities, and then that's another way of doing it, and you will get it very quickly. Remember though, if you have 4.5k rep, you only need 20 KC to get into the boss fight, but that's a lot of Serenic reputation to get. And make sure you also collect the ingression fragments, because they are very valuable for reputation later on, as I will show you. So yeah, just make sure to collect those and you're good to go as long as you get 40 KC. Oh, and another really cool thing about God Wars Dungeon 2 is that the KC that you get stays with you forever, even if you leave the dungeon, until you make an instance or go into someone else's instance, in which case it will last 1 hour, I believe, and then it will go away again and you'll have to get it again. Now before we get into the setup section, you're probably wondering, what style should I be using? Well, to answer your question, I did a test at the boss, and I used all three Nox weapons, and I used rune metrics to time it. Basically, it turns out that ranged gave me a time of 2 minutes 26. This is only one kill, so it's not like a perfect example. Mage gave me 2 minutes 36, and melee with the scythe gave me around 2 minutes 07, as you'll see. Now, that obviously means melee is faster than all the other styles, and it probably is right, but what it doesn't tell you is that melee also makes you eat more food, because Zerk will wreck you as well as wrecking the monster. So until you get a bit more experience, I don't recommend you melee. I recommend you mage or range until you get more experienced. And for melee, this is the setup I recommend you use. So on the left you'll see all the items, from the best items and on the right you'll see the worst items, and it did take me a while to compile this list, so I recommend you pause the video and have a good look at it if you want to. And yes, I recommend dual Dragos above the Nox side for this particular boss, because there's only one target, so AoEs won't actually do extra DPS or anything, unlike the Twin Furies. And obviously Destroy does more DPS than Destroy makes dual Dragos do more DPS than the Nox side, and everything else should be fairly self-explanatory. I do recommend the Vampirism Scrimshaw above any other, because of the healing ability. You can heal a lot with the scythe, with Soul Split and the Vampirism Scrimshaw, so I recommend that. And moving on to mage, well, the mage setup is also fairly self-explanatory. It's very similar, you just use the equivalent items. Also remember that perking up your armour and weapons is a massive bonus at this boss, well, at any boss to be honest. The crackling perk is awesome, the precise and equilibrium perks are awesome, the absorbative perk is awesome, and yeah, just perk up all your weapons and armor if you can. I made a video on it a few weeks ago, a month ago I think, so make sure you check that out for which perks to add. And yeah, magic is a viable option as well. The Nox staff, I believe, is slightly better DPS than the dual seismics, but it doesn't really matter. And finally with ranged, again it's a very self-explanatory setup. Take the best DPS armor you can and the best DPS weapons. You should prioritize DPS over armor, because he does have a very, very high accuracy, so armor won't actually save you that much. So just DPS, just go all out DPS as much as possible, and it doesn't really matter whether you use a Noxbow or Ascensions, because the range of the Noxbow doesn't really give you that big an advantage at this particular boss. Okay, moving on to the inventory, action bar and familiar setups, guys. We have the most important thing first, which is the weapon poison ++. Okay, maybe not. Maybe overloads are important, and food of course, and prayer. Okay, everything is important, but the weapon poison does work on this boss, so take it if you can. And dreadnips also work, so take them if you can, but if you're kind of short, probably save them for raids if you do raids as well. And obviously the enhanced Excalibur for healing. Disruption shield is very useful if you've unlocked it from Livid Farm and you have level 90 magic and you're not maging, because if you're maging you can't use lunar spells, you need lunar spells for it, so take that, it's very useful. And also, yeah, the familiar, you should probably take a pack yak for your first few trips. You could probably take a titan or something, or a unicorn or a nihil or something. But the bruise to rocktails ratio, only you can really tell. I'd probably take more rocktails than bruise to start off with for emergency heals. But once you get used to the boss, you should probably take more bruise so you can last longer. You don't need that many restores, it doesn't drain your prayer as such. And obviously take a shield for that healing of some of the attacks that I'll come to later on. And also, yeah, we want like 5 main things on your primary and secondary action bars. Those are Soul Split, Protect from Melee, Disruption Shield, Freedom, very important, Resonance, and your ultimates and your Ring of Vigor switch. Those are very important things, and I recommend that you put those on your action bar. Apart from that, well, each person's action bar is different, so I'm not going to go into that, but your quick prayer should be set to Soul Split and your level 95 curse, whatever it may be, depending on the style you're using. Don't forget runes if you're using mage, and if you're going to blood barrage, make sure you use dark form, otherwise it won't heal you at all. Dark form, if you use dark form, it will heal you a little bit, but I think you need the light within quest for that. So yeah. On to the special attacks then, and Helwyr has 4 different special attacks. Now, he will use these in between 3 auto attacks, although having said that, it's currently kind of glitched. Sometimes he does do these attacks back to back without any space in between, so just watch out for that. But the first one is the mushroom attack. Well, he says nature lend me your aid, and he spawns 3 mushrooms which have a green radius around them, and if you walk into them you can't run, and you will get hit constant 200, so surge away. The second one is you will bleed, so he'll basically give you a second or two, and he will smack you with his claws and hit you for a massive amount of melee damage, and then you will bleed for a bit, typeless damage, which will go up to 250 if you don't clear it. And the third one is when he just goes mad and he just does melee damage like frenzy, and he will also bleed you after that. And the last one is when he spawns 2 minions which will do a bit of damage on you, and they only have 3k HP each. So the first attack is the mushroom attack. He'll say nature lend me a raid, and he'll spawn 3 mushrooms around the room randomly. If you get caught up in one of them, just move away or surge away, and that's pretty much it. You can continue on your way, make sure you don't go back into them. The second was a wolf attack. He will raise his head and do that, and he'll spawn 2 wolves with 3k HP each, and if you do what I just did and just hurricane, they'll be dead instantly, so that's not a problem. There is a glitch though where one of the wolves spawns behind the portal, which is good if you stand near the portal, and just to make sure, I went outside and it disappeared, so it was all good. It doesn't attack if you go back to the lobby. For the bleed attack, the best cure is prevention, as usual, which is to say, as soon as you see him go up on his hind legs like this, you just want to go sideways, and you will avoid the attack completely, which is the best form of avoiding it. However, sometimes you may not spot it, and sometimes you might want to heal from it. So what you can do is put your shield on and whack on your resonance, take off your protect melee prayer, unlike what I'm doing here, and watch out for the minions, they might snipe you. But if you're zerked, it's even better, but sometimes you can't have resonance and you want to use disruption shield if you can. This is really useful ability actually. It's a spell, in fact. It's a lunar spell, a level 90 lunar spell, unlocked at Livid Farm, and if you actually zerk, you can heal 50% more, and that's a great way to heal up. If you're zerked and he does this attack. However, if you get it wrong, this can happen. 4.3k hit there, so just be careful and protect melee if you want to. And remember, whenever you do get hit, you will get bled as well, so you want to use freedom as soon as possible, really, as soon as you get hit, even if you heal from it. So, unlike for the bleed attack, for the mad attack, as I like to call it, you can't really avoid the bleed. You can move far enough away, but the range is pretty big, as you can see here. I tried to move a few squares away, but I was still getting hit. So what you can do is you can just stay and use devotion. That's probably the best method if you don't want to go far away. If you're meleeing, obviously you don't have any choice. You gotta stay and you gotta use devotion. Yeah, that's the only way to deal with it. You will get bled, and this is why you need to save freedom for this attack and try and avoid avoid the other one. Another method, if you're ranging or maging, is to move really far away and continue attacking. You will get bled, like I said, so you want to use freedom and save freedom for this attack. Try and avoid the bleed attack, but save your freedoms for this, because this is the only thing that you can't avoid using freedom for. Once we actually get into a proper kill, it's a simple case of executing on the knowledge that you've gained on how to avoid the attacks while basically being able to DPS really well. So that means anti-poison first, dread nips, death swiftness, thresholds, and then avoid the attacks the way I told you earlier, depending on whether your resonance is on cooldown or whether disruption shield is on cooldown, and whether you can, devotion, that kind of thing, and try and bunch the wolves together so you can use AoE abilities on them, move away from his mad attack, and deal with his bleed attack as you see fit, and that's basically it. But there is an order to his attacks, at least to start off with, so he always does the mushroom attack, then the bleed attack, then the mad attack, and finally the wolves attack, in that order, and he'll cycle through those in that same order almost all the time. I wouldn't say exactly all the time, he has like messed up the order once or twice, but yeah. Now, to just give you guys a different perspective, I've gone with a duo melee kill here, and the important thing to note is that a few kills into the trip, into the instance, the order changes. And the order now does not involve the minions, as you can see on screen now. You'll notice this new order when the minions stop spawning in the entire kill. When you're duoing, you want to DPS as much as possible, so you ain't got time for monkey business. So you don't want to be devotioning and wasting your DPS, especially when you're zerked, for example. And you do want to be using resonance when you're zerked as well, without protect melee and things like that. So you just got to be street smart. And here, I actually use freedom, and I should not have used freedom because he's just about to bleed, and I should have known this. This is what knowledge can do. I should have known he was just about to bleed, and I should have waited, because I forgot to use freedom earlier. I should have waited like 5 more seconds, because now he'll bleed me again, you see. So you gotta use freedom as a very valuable resource. It's got a 30-second cooldown, remember. Yeah, you gotta DPS as much as possible, know which attacks are coming, and just zerk and DPS, really. There's not much more, and avoid the attacks as you see fit, without wasting your DPS. Okay guys, here's a real-time voiceover of a geo kill, and the key thing to note is that there's no time for random abilities to be used. It's a 55-second kill, and you gotta stay focused. So the first attack he does is the bleed attack. I simply use the disruption shield without switching prayers and carry on. So I got my adrenaline to 100%, so I'm just gonna use my zerk now, and without any attacks in between, without any auto attacks, he does that attack now, and I immediately switch to melee knowing that he's gonna do it. And you gotta be aware that he may not do auto attacks in between. He may move straight to the next attack, which is a glitch currently. He may be fixed in the future, and then he will do the bleed attack again. And notice also that I'm getting bled 375, but that's because of Zerk, because Zerk does 1.5 times normal damage to you, and thankfully he's on my partner, so I don't need to worry about resonancing and wasting DPS. So I'm just trying to make the most of my Zerk and not worry about freedom in, because his kills are so short, you don't really need to worry about it, and your soul split will heal a lot of damage, and then he spawns the mushrooms. I just move forward 1 square and he's dead. So it's as easy as that. Just focus on DPS. And finally, one of the options you can use when you're soloing or duoing and you're the tank is running around the room. This has massive advantages because although you can't walk him, you can't really stall his attacks, what this does is that it guarantees you will never get bled as long as you walk in circles. So you can completely avoid the bleed attack and save your freedom for the mad attack, and you can almost heal up all your HP through soul split. And if you had, say, vampirism, you could even heal all of it up. Now this method is actually better if you use metamorphosis. I was using range here, which is a disadvantage, and the disadvantage is you can't use channeling ability because you're always running around, except now. So except when he stands in one place and does the mad attack, you run away from him and you get like a few seconds to do your rapid fire or your asphyxiate. So my basic advice is, if you can, use mage. I didn't bring mage here, but if you can use mage, you'll get slightly slower kills, possibly on par kills, I guess, compared to normal standing in one place solos, but it will use up a lot less food, possibly no food as well. There you are guys, I've shown you all the different tactics I've been using, and I hope you found it useful. My personal favourite when I'm geoing is melee, and my personal favourite when I'm soloing is either mage or range while running around the room. The reason for that is that I can do very, very long trips using that method because I barely use up any food. Otherwise, I use up quite a bit of food because I'm not great at it yet. I've only got like 150 kills. So yeah, and I hope you also realised that the order that I mentioned, or the order of attacks, when the wolves spawn and when the wolves stop spawning, I think that might actually be fixed because it's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be quasi-random, I believe, so in the sense that he can't do any attacks back to back, but he should be able to do the attacks randomly otherwise apart from that. So they may be patching that, so look out for that. Also watch out for a fix to the fact that sometimes he can do attacks back to back without any auto attacks in between. And yeah, don't be limited by this. This is only a guide, so I hope it helped you and you found out some useful information on how to tackle the boss, but don't let it limit you. Things may change in the future and you should also change accordingly. And don't be afraid to do other things like using reflect or revenge stacking with a defender, or using debilitate. Debilitate is actually pretty good if you're low on food, so that kind of thing can help. And I hope you enjoyed this tactics section. Let's move on to the final section of this video. I really hope you enjoyed the guide, guys, and just before we finish off, I wanted to show you guys the unique rewards you can get from this boss. So the dormant anima core body, helm and legs are drops you can get from all 4 bosses, so it's not really unique, I guess. But if you want to convert it into Seren armour, you want to use the crest of Seren on it, which is unique, and it will convert it into level 80 Seren magic armour. If you use the Serenic essence on it, it will convert it to level 85 degradable magic armour, Seren magic armour, so that's pretty cool. You can also get the wand of the queer elders and the twisted antler, which is the pet. Now the wand is tier 90 accuracy and tier 80 damage, which is actually kind of unique. I think it could have a lot of potential uses at Virago, bomb tanking and base tanking, because you don't really need massive DPS there, but you definitely need the accuracy for casting hexes and such. So it's kind of useful there, I guess. I'll have to test it out later on. If you want to camp this boss, you want to know all the different ways you can get reputation. Now the first way I talked about is by handing seals of other bosses to the Helwyr's chosen person in the heart of Gelenor right here. I just handed in 20 Seal of the Dragon Riders, which I got from killing Vindicta, into this person, and I got 100 reps, so 5 per thing. And another way is by summoning reinforcement using this ingression fragment. If you go to the Seren faction and click on it and use and summon a large one, you'll get 15 rep, so that's pretty nice. And also you can get 5 bounties a day from Feng. He basically asks you to get 100 KC of a boss that's not your boss, or just kill 4 of the bosses. Currently I'm sided with Zamorak, and my bounty is to kill either 4 Zaros bosses or get 100 KC of the from the minions. So yeah, that will give me 150 reps, so you can get 750 rep a day from that. Another way is to kill an opposite general for the first time. That will give you 50 reps. So if you kill each of Vindicta, Twin Furies and Grigorovich for the first time, you'll get 150 rep altogether. And I think that's pretty much it. 4 different ways you can get rep. Try and get 5k as quickly as possible so you can get double drops essentially. And that's about it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you get lucky, luckier than I do. And yeah, this has been my favourite boss to fight so far. I'm hoping to get the pet soon as well. Looks kind of good. So all the best, guys, and I'll see you later.